You rolling? Hi, I'm Timothy Mitchell, the Practical Printer, and welcome to my print lab.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Printer, digital printing for practical people. My name is Timothy Mitchell, and the purpose of the Practical Printer is to do live interviews with people in my industry, which is the wide format digital printing industry, on every subject imaginable, really from the trenches, from the point where the ink meets the media, from the people who make things work, from the people who build things, who run things, who troubleshoot things, who fix things, connecting in the digital printing industry. So I have today a very wonderful guest that has been an illuminating source of information for me as I entered into the new direct-to-film apparel category. I became interested in that about 3 years ago. Early on, I discovered Carl Adams and his wife, Shelley. Hi, guys. Thank you very much for being on the Practical Printer. And they were super friendly to me, and they knew all kinds of things I didn't know. And they also hooked me up with a lot of great people in the industry so that all the questions I had largely got answered. And I discovered what was necessary to understand about the workflow, because DTF printing successfully is a workflow proposition. It's the software so that you take the file and you process the file correctly, almost certainly to involve a layer of white ink. Then you have the film, and films are not created equally, and films work differently with different inks. And then you have the printer and the inks. And then from there, you're going to go right into the shaker where the powder is going to be applied onto the ink. All powders are not the same. They're different. They have different characteristics. Then you have the shaker, which is kind of the most essential part of the whole process. It's kind of like the calendared press in dye sublimation printing. And so your shaker is important. And if it's not working properly or it's not even or there's other issues, well, all that work you did in the front end lost. Then after the shaker, you have to take it up on the roll and bring it to a heat press. And then that has to be applied to the finished product, which is, for the most part, t-shirts. Not always, but t-shirt disproportionately. Carl and Shelley know that workflow. They know that workflow very, very well. And I'm always calling Carl and going, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And the other cool thing is they have the missing piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, that other people are missing, which is a very high quality shaker that is also, to the extent that you can do it, hermetically sealed, so that you put your powder in, the powder circulates and everything automatically, and then you have all of your, you have all of the necessary components to make sure the evaporative is sealed and corralled off properly so that it's not just going into the air like a big steam engine in the top of the shaker, which you don't want to do that. So, Carl, tell me a little bit about yourself and Shelley and your company, what you do, how you got in the business. I know you do a lot of actual printing for people, so you have hands-on experience, which I think is essential. That's very empirical. I do the printing. I know what works. I know what looks right. I know what quality is. You can tell the difference between shit and shinola, right? Like,
Correct.
That's good printing. That's poor printing. So tell me a little bit about yourselves, your background, and then tell me about your killer shaker, because I really do like it.
So I think back in 2020, 2021, Shelley and I started with traditional sublimation, like everybody, right?
Cricket.
In
Vinyl,
cricket and
the
vinyl, correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she really was hands-on there. I was still doing security I was site security supervisor at one of the medical centers downtown Houston, and we were going through the whole COVID thing. So every day I was in meetings with doctors and trying to figure that out. Our whole campus was shut down. So at home every day, she would be working on vinyl shirts. What other type of stuff were you
All right.
working on?
So you guys created like a home-based business using a Cricut system.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Cool.
And we filmed it. So we have like literally we tried to do sublimation. So we started with a converted printer, which we still use today, but we put it back to regular printing. And we filmed every single process and then we show us unboxing everything. But it was really Shelley to really start to figure everything out. She's the one who found DTF locally here. And she was really knocking everything out, figuring out all the different pieces. And then as I came to kind of understand it, I'm like, I think that we can scale this. So at that time, we met somebody locally who had converted an Epson printer into DTF. So there weren't, as far as we knew at that time, there wasn't an actual Chinese DTF printer, at least in this area.
Okay.
So
That was about 2021. So we discovered this amazing, it was more like I was looking for screen print transfers because I didn't know about DTF at that time. So I needed a full color screen print transfer. And he was like, well, I have this DTF. And I'm like, well, what is that? And he was just like, just come by the shop and then I'll show you. And it changed our life. It changed, I had a few clothing companies, clothing brand companies that I was providing apparel for. And it just changed the whole trajectory of everybody's brand having
Right.
to be able to have these colorful designs and things like that versus HTV, which is one color, one option.
Right. So you hitched your wagon to DTF before hardly anyone knew what it was. Obviously, it was huge in Asia. About that same
correct.
time, it came on my radar, and I was working for S1 LexJet, and I said, "Hey, let's just get one of these things in whatever configuration we can get and figure out how it works." Because it seems to be the Wild West. There's no formal organization. You sort of buy your powder here, your film there, your shaker
Yes.
here, your printer is sort of a lot of them are coming in from China. They're kind of Frankenstein printers. I'm hearing reports that the white ink is clogging and they have trouble. And I know a bit about white ink, so I have a long white ink printing background. And I'm like, yeah, it's no surprise that it's clogging because that's the nature of white ink. DTF just discovered white ink clogs. That's good. So hopefully they'll figure, and that's where I kind of left it for a little while is white ink clogs, and you have to purge and purge and purge to keep it running. From your point of view, did you go through that as well? The white ink adventure?
So it's weird to see. I'm glad that you brought that up because it's weird to see in 2025. Yes, everything that you're saying is correct up until a certain point because now we have options. Like you had mentioned, Ian. There's a non-sediment white ink, and not only do I have the formula for it, but it's also coming and they are developing it in Asia as well. But I have it here and I have it for all platforms, Mumaki's or any other platform. I have it, and this thing will drastically extend the life of your printhead, and you don't have to do all those things like you're talking about when it comes to like purging and whitehead cleaning and load inks and all that other stuff. You're not having to do that. So now that's like a normal ink, but people don't necessarily. We have it. We love it. We've had it for at least a year and a half, but a lot of people still to this day, I'll see even the new Epson printer. I'm like, why are these companies who claim to be ink companies continue to release a sediment white ink? Like, why are you still shaking the ink in 2025?
Because all of the actual innovation is coming from China, not from Japan.
Okay.
I mean, from what I can tell, I mean, the DTF industry is a Japanese or a Chinese industry. It was already well developed and they were working on everything and all using, like your standard size is 24 inches.
Correct.
It's not 29 inches, it's not 32 inches, it's not 36 inches, it's 24 inches. Now
Yeah.
there are wider printers, and companies like CobraFlex and others have made wider printers to do different things. And that could also include the decor market, awnings, all kinds of other things. But the core market is 24 inch or even a little smaller. 24 seems to be what everyone's settled on. So here's your sweet spot. 24-inch printer, 3200 series Epson heads, 2 to 4 depending. The shaker is adjusted for speed depending on what your printer is putting out. 24-inch film is widely common. And everything is a workflow, kind of like I brought up earlier. So if if 3 of the pieces, it's kind of like doing lamination. If your laminator is 55 inches, well, then what good is a 64-inch printer exactly? You may as
Exactly.
well,
Yeah.
you may as well get a 54-inch printer because that's your right marriage between your finishing device and your printer if everything's going to be laminated. So if your shaker is 24 inches and that's what's available and that's where the price sweet spot clearly is. Because every time you have to do something bigger, yeah, you're now being more compatible to your printer, but your printer's the oddball size and your shaker is now the incorrect size to match your oddball printer, which then drives up the price of your shaker because you're buying outside of norms. Now they'll tell you, oh, well, we think that this is the best size. And the real answer is no, you already had existing products in that size, in that frame, and you just adapted it to DTF.
Yes.
Hence, you notice that other things that they make are in the same size. So the Chinese market really, I think, drove all this. The Chinese market is the dominant advance, and that's where the white ink came to the Chinese printer market and change the market. Especially, like you have companies like DuPont, they have very good white ink at $75 a liter, and it doesn't clog. And you even have, as you're mentioning, further advances in white ink that are sediment free, that can go with even without being circulated for long periods of time. And that's going to change because now you don't have to make this elaborate circulation system and dampers and everything else because it's not as necessary.
Well,
You
you
know?
still have it. It's almost, I'll give you an actual example.
It's an insurance policy. It's a
Exactly.
peace of mind.
And we had it, our printer that we still have out there in that garage sat for 2 months. Both print heads still worked. We still printed with it after because we had non-sediment white ink in there. And we had a big storm here in Houston and it blew out the boards. And we couldn't figure out why it wouldn't advance the film. It would print, but it wouldn't advance the film.
Okay.
So it took forever. But when we finally got it up and running, all we had to do was do a few flushes. The printhead still worked, and thank God we had that non-sediment white ink in there.
Sure. And I know I had a meeting with at the last big DTF Expo. I had a meeting with Ian Aram of
Yes.
what's the name of his company? Help me out here.
TexPro.
TexPro. And, he was explaining to me the value of this sediment-free ink, and I definitely agree with him. Now, that's a major chemistry innovation that changes the DTF industry. It recalculates the configuration of what works and what doesn't work, because the thing that when I was with Mamaki, the thing that Mamaki introduced when they introduced their DTF printer is a Japanese OEM product that doesn't have ink that clogs with white. Now, that doesn't mean you didn't have to shake it. It doesn't mean you still don't have the possibility of it clogging. It just means that they created a better quality white and they created a circulation system as an insurance policy against it clogging. Having sediment-free white is still a step forward. I mean, that's a better approach to it. And I think the two together, now I have a very good white ink that's not going to clog. But that innovation came elsewhere. Because it seems to me that the DTF market, would you guys agree with me that 24 inch is kind of the standard size? Okay. So everybody who's not in 24 inch is sort of an outlier in their own way.
It's extreme. Even as Flash Printing Depot, like you mentioned, the films, the powders, we sell all of that. And it's extremely difficult whenever we get somebody asking for 32, because then we know we have to master cut a roll down to 32 to specifically meet your needs. And it really
Right.
frustrates us whenever
And I
somebody's
know
like,
where
"Hey,"
that 32 is coming from.
Yeah.
It's one printer company
Yeah,
that has a
exactly.
32 inch machine.
Exactly.
And then there's
Exactly.
another Japanese printer company that has like, I think, a 29 inch machine. And there's
Yeah.
another new Japanese company entry, which is a 36 inch.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I can buy almost two 24 inch shakers for the price of one 36 inch shaker.
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
don't have any oddball film issues, where I'm going to the people selling the film and going, I need a specialty cut film. Well, that's going to drive the price of my film. So
Exactly.
I'm a practical man. My pickup truck has a bed in it that fits a 4x8 board. You know why? Because there's 4x8 boards at Home Depot.
Correct.
Okay. You start making oddball board sizes, it doesn't fit in the bed of my pickup truck anymore. So standardized sizes it's been a long time thing in every industry. So to my way of thinking, even if you have a 36, 32, or 29 inch printer, I'm going to run a 24 inch shaker because that's where the shaker sweet spot is. And the shaker is totally necessary for the success of the venture,
100.
right? So let's talk a little bit about your shaker.
Well,
You
I
guys
was
have a
gonna
very good shaker, and
the
it solves a lot of the issues people have out there. And let me
correct.
describe a common issue, and this is very, very likely. Common issue. I bought a new printer, don't care, Maki, Roland, Epson, right? Shaker crapped out. Trying to get a part, can't get a part. Don't know how to fix it. We're 3 weeks out for somebody coming out to fix it. Okay, now you have a printer that has sensitive white ink in it. You're not running it. What's the next thing that's going to happen? My print head's going to clog. So now you get the shaker fixed, and now I have a DOA printer because I've been down for 3 weeks. Okay, now I know there's people out there that know this story because those two things have to work together all the time. Like they're a seamless integration. One of them supports the other and one won't work without the other one. So no shaker, you're not doing any printing. You have nothing. You have a printer that just sits there until the shaker's fixed. So, and a lot of the major manufacturers, in fact, I think all the Japanese manufacturers, none of them make their own shaker. They don't even, only Roland offers one on their webpage. Mamaki and Epson are like, hey, that's the dealer's problem.
Yeah, they
So
offer
that's
one.
where we are with shakers. And in my
Offer.
opinion, offer. So my view of shaker is it's an integral and necessary part of the workflow that is either half-assed or overlooked entirely. It's a, hey, just here's our shaker. I'm like, do you know anything about them? Not really. We just get them from China by the crate.
Yeah. It's about price. At this point, it's about price. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. And we've had to put out so many fires, so many behind the scenes things that Shelly and I have been working on to at least educate as many people as possible about, hey, I understand your printer, but you really have to like pay attention to that shaker. Because there's a lot of things that really go on, like you had mentioned with the fumes and everything. That is a serious, we actually just switched over powders and I can smell the VOCs. Like, and I messaged my friend and I said, hey, can you send me the MSDS for this? Because something's not right here. My last powder didn't smell like this. It's a lot finer powder, but it didn't smell like this. And then, a lot of people are putting these shakers in their homes, this whole printing system in their home. And like you had mentioned, whenever you go to these odd sizes, now you're worried about doors and will it fit through and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then people don't want to use the proper ventilation. Our shaker, the SmartShaker, we won't warranty it if you are not buying it in conjunction with a fume extractor, because I don't trust your ventilation system. I don't trust your Amazon inline fan with a 4-inch duct, out the back of your window. I just don't trust it because it has to pull a certain amount of heat and air and also oil. I have a recent video here where I broke down my entire fume extractor, took everything out, and there was oil everywhere. Cleaned the whole thing, and I found out you can wash out your carbon filter with water and put it back. It's on our YouTube. But your average person wouldn't know, right? They're just, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't need that, but
Yeah,
you
you
need
do.
it. Yeah, you need
Actually
it.
you do. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true. And that was my issue very early on is will I put it in, I have a big print studio downstairs, right? I have all kinds of stuff. Would I put it in my own basement and would I work on it in my own garage with the garage door down? It's actually a studio and it's called a garaje. But anyway, it's just a fancy word for garage. Anyway, would I print it there? The answer is no. No, I wouldn't because I don't want to breathe it all day. And
Really?
I don't know what that powder is. I mean, this was back in the day. There were no
Okay.
data
Okay.
sheets, right? There are now. I didn't know what the powder was. I didn't know where it was coming. I was being given nothing but assurances, just verbal assurances. Hey, the powder's good. I buy good powder. Sure, you do. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Do you know? Did they know? No. So then I'm running it all the time and I'm breathing this stuff in. And I'm like, well, how much of that powder is going into my lungs? And what happens when I breathe it all day long? Now, there's serious concerns here, not just for the loose powder that goes around, which people are like, I'm at shows watching people just openly scoop it out like it's, ice cream, like it's rice. I'm like, it's not rice, man. It's very fine powder and it's going all over the place. You have no ventilation. You don't know what it is. And yet you'd be all freaked out about asbestos, but you don't seem to have any concern whatsoever about this powder that you're like in an enclosed space with all day long, making money in your t-shirt business.
Right.
So I just think it's necessary to consider the things you're referring to, like evacuation, like filters, like evacuation to where. I've been in
Exactly.
shops, demo centers, right? Corporate demo centers where the evacuation for the DTF went up and there and went down against the wall. Not out the
Really?
wall, like along the wall. Like, well,
In the
where's
same
that
room?
going? Yeah, all you're doing is moving it from here over to there. Like, what's the point? But you know what I mean? Like, I want those things locked down because I want the assurance that I'm using a process that may have health concerns. So I'm going to use a professional engineering, safety focused response to it to buy the best shaker, quality powder with safety data sheets, and film, obviously, that's, takes the ink well and takes the powder well. And then a shaker that is as hermetically sealed as I can get it. It's not going to be perfect, but I need it to be better. Like if there's 3 shakers and one is leaking all over and one of them's not, I'll take the one that's not. And then I want to have filters, I want to have fans, I want it to be evacuated properly, and I want to have a protocol that we follow. Like I would wear a BM respirator when I'm putting the powder in. And then once it's in and I know that it's largely in, I'll have ventilation around the printer, like fans and stuff, and then I'll take my mask off and continue printing. Long runs, I might leave, just go outside the room, open up the garage door or something.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable to you, like an approach to as much safety as you can get? And then, your shaker addresses a lot of those concerns.
And that's and everything that we like, we'll have these conversations like with you on different platforms or with other people. But the biggest thing is that we, like you as a practical printer, we are actually printing practically. Like we do
Right.
it. These are the things that if we have an issue, we always document it and then share it and let everybody know, hey, you might have been, or you might have had this issue as well, but you don't have anybody out there telling you if it is good or if it is bad. So that's something that we do all the time. We're actually printing with our shakers from our older model to our new SmartShaker. We show people how to save film because so many people with other shakers are wasting tens of feet of film because you're printing. I mean, you're pulling the film all the way to the take-up reel. With our SmartShaker, you don't have to do that because it has 2 vacuums. So you're just pulling just enough. Well, really, like we always say, you start your nozzle checks, do your nozzle checks, make sure you have as much, ink there as possible. Of course, sometimes you're going to be missing some things, but that doesn't mean that you can't continue to print. And then you start your run. And as it comes down, you're just going to drop it down. Then you're going to bring it back up, and there's a vacuum here. So there's our belt. There's a vacuum here, and there's another vacuum here. No other shaker has 2 vacuums. 2 things about our shakers. No other shaker has 2 vacuums, one here and one here. And no other shaker has 2 side horizontal bulbs. 2 side vertical bulbs. So our shaker has 2 bulbs on the side to cure the sides, as well as 4 down the middle. And it goes up if you get a larger shaker all the way up to 63 inches. But also there's 2 vacuums. The reason for that is when you first bring down your film and you start it up, you've only wasted about this film. And I've proved this because I've filmed it and put it out. You put it on the first vacuum. Then you just print. Hit auto. It's only going to move that belt forward as the film goes down and sees the sensor. Now it's advancing forward. You can adjust it as well as you want. Doesn't matter. If you want it to go slower or faster, it just depends on your printer. As soon as it gets to the second vacuum, you're all set. You don't have to touch anything. And then whenever you're done with your run, all you have to do is pause it, cut the film, or if you have a Mamaki, it'll automatically do it, but you just cut the film and just let it run itself out automatically. Whereas now, every shaker out there, if you try to run it out, as soon as it gets closer to the end, because there's no vacuum falls
right down.
Say that again?
It falls right down.
It falls right down, exactly. And a lot of people the printing industry, these companies, these 3 major brands think that everything is printing for t-shirts. I don't make money for ourselves. We don't pay our bills with t-shirts. We pay our bills with the product. The product is the DTF transfer. That's where we make all of our money, and we wholesale. So all of our income comes from, we may do a t-shirt here and there, but predominantly our sales that are coming through are all 100% through the product of the transfer. From a 22 by 24.
What they do with it is you don't know.
Exactly.
They buy the transfer.
But what they're doing is they've created a business to be able to purchase from us at such a low price because we wholesale the product. And then they sell the exact same gang sheet, probably like double, at least 50% markup. If they aren't doing t-shirts as well. So now we have a bunch of people using our transfers, and that's the business of DTF. That's its real purpose. You have screen print shops and other companies, DTG shops and stuff like that have incorporated DTF, and they don't even realize the capabilities and why DTF was actually created. And I've told you this in person. I don't understand why somebody who has a DTF machine isn't selling the transfer. You're just wasting money. Your printer's just sitting there, and these DTF printers need to print. Sometimes we'll even save, like if we have like a big day and a slow day, we'll save some orders from the big day for the slow day so we can run our printer. Because they love to run every single day. That's, you know, we even have a few runs today after this meeting. But yeah, that's the benefits of the shaker.
Safety. That's really what the industry is looking for right now.
Yeah.
Is safety, and that's what the SmartShaker brings. It brings
Right.
all those key features for, you know, reducing 90% of airborne powder, which everyone's looking for, the suctions to reduce wasting film. It has that built-in plug in the front to reduce using other plugs in your house for the inline service. You talked about the workflow earlier.
Yes,
You can
correct.
plug in a heat press to the shaker. You can plug in a XY cutter into the shaker. It has the oil catch drain, so it, you know, catches all the oil. So there's a lot of safety features that the SmartShaker has that the industry is wanting because they were used to the crap.
Well, also our shaker will adjust the heat. A lot of people don't. I've literally seen somebody panic and reach to grab the hood to lift it up because they thought that the transfer was going to burn. Our shaker will automatically, if that sensor senses that the film has stopped, that the roll has stopped, it'll bring down the heat automatically. You don't have to go in there and manually touch it. It'll bring it down. Then once it recognizes it's starting to move forward, it will raise it back up so it doesn't burn your transfer.
Smart.
Yeah.
We're going to talk quite a bit. You know, I'll have you guys probably on as regular guests. I mean, your
appreciate it.
knowledge of DTF, I think, is formidable, and also I think you sell a lot of things within the market. But the thing that really struck me is I just think you have the best shaker I've seen. If somebody else says, "Hey, I got a better shaker," I'm like, "Okay, I'm all ears." But at the moment, I've seen a lot of them, and the SmartShaker that you guys have is the best thing I've seen. You know, for all the features that I'm looking for, and particularly safety features. That's my bugaboo, is safety. So I would put the SmartShaker in my garage with the
See what you're saying.
caveat that I would evacuate everything properly, but then I would be fine to say, you know, yeah, I'll let my wife down there run her apparel business, and I won't be that concerned about it. So
Correct.
I think you guys have a cool product. I'm very grateful that you've introduced it to the industry. I think it needs something like that very much. I do think there were a ton of crap shakers everywhere, exactly what they were. I think a lot of people got burned in the industry because of crap shakers. A lot of angry people, a lot of frustrated people, a lot of people who spend a lot of money who feel like they were let down. And, you know, the shaker problem was probably, in my opinion, the biggest Achilles heel in the industry after white ink got fixed. The shaker thing was still an ongoing problem.
Yeah.
And they were just low quality, simple shakers that were designed to do a very limited task. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of them right now sitting in somebody's garage missing parts and boards, and, you know, they don't know what to do, and the company they bought it from isn't in business anymore, and, you know,
Yeah.
there you go. Now you got to buy another
Yeah.
shaker.
We have 20 of them still in Irving, sitting in boxes from 2023. Just
Right.
paperweights.
Paperweights.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
It's
thank you very
unfortunate.
much for being on.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you
Thank
guys
you,
both
Tim.
soon, and good luck with all your endeavors.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Tim.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for having us.